Counter-Strike, CS, or otherwise known by many as Counter-Strike 1.6, is probably one of the most played and widely known games in the history of gaming. It's a part of a big and popular series of versions of this beloved franchise, and this specific version is the one we'll talk about today. You see, most gamers over the age of 20 have probably heard, tried, or spent countless hours on it in their homes or in cybercafes with friends, have played the classic FPS mode or tried the hundreds of other modes in private servers. Even big esports tournaments and famous teams such as Fnatic and Navi majored in this game before succeeding in later games and versions of CS. Nowadays, however, the game is a ghost of its former self, with only a few hundred real players still playing to this day. So what happened when it died? First things first, let's go back to the game's former glory. The game was originally a mod of Half-Life that most of you definitely know, until it became an official standalone game. It was, for the game industry, a fresh breath of air. It was a classic cop versus bad guy game, but it had its extra touches. Firstly, what you'd call map missions. It was always a multiplayer game, but besides the classic kill each other logic, it had a bomb plant and defuse objective and hostage rescue. You could win around without having to kill everyone. It was more than a shoot 'em up game, it added a touch of tactic. Well-planned maps and a big variety of them from the community as well added even more to the standard game, but that's far from all there was. The game was very multiplayer friendly for the time. You could make LAN parties, host online servers, play with bots for practice, you could play and voice chat with friends from all over the world, something not as granted as today. It was fun. Then there were mods. Counter-Strike was one of the most mod-friendly games ever, with hundreds of mods. Anything you could possibly think of, it was a mod. Superheroes, Prison Break or Jailbreak, Surf, Hide and Seek, Zombies, Pokemon. You had an idea, it could be added as a mod. Imagine having hundreds of mods, dozens of servers for each mod, with dozens of people trying them out. And let's not forget the boosting services that sent bots for extra pop, and do the math. Besides that, Counter-Strike was one of the most easily accessible games. Not only was it quite affordable to buy, but it had been cracked and shared so many times on the internet that it literally took you seconds to play, either whether you owned the game or not. Not to mention, it is a very light game, graphic and size-wise. It was a go-to game. It was a mother of LAN parties, the game that set the standard for many years to come. However, diamonds aren't forever. The game went from one of the most popular in the world to having a few thousands of players at best. Why? Well, let's start from the most obvious point, graphics. Yeah, most of us gamers know that graphics don't make the game, but let's be honest, we all set our settings to max whenever we can. The visual quality and realistic look of a game does not define it, but it surely helps attract a player even more. Counter-Strike is a really old game, so when the average player of the newer generations takes a look at it, it's a quick no. Older players, on the other hand, might give it an extra second or two before going back to the prettier games, but they'll still do so. Age. As mentioned plenty of times, the game is old. Everything around gaming has advanced since then. Stories, ideas, missions, physics, graphics and whatnot. Whether we want to admit it or not, games and gaming overall have become more complex. Counter-Strike being simple is what makes it charming, but with the thousands of FPS games and varieties, it's hard to always stick to the good old formula, which brings me to the next point. Competition. Thousands of games in the genre, different styles, more depth, quality and support. The gaming industry is much bigger than it was 25 years ago, and now you have so many options in your library, so easily to access. It literally takes minutes to play any game of the FPS family just with a push of a few buttons through your respective launcher. Back in the day, those options were much less, not to mention many games weren't even digital. You literally had to go find a store that had the game you're looking for, and good luck having any clue of its requirements and drivers that needed to make it work. Now it's all automatic, press install and everything's ready, jump in the game and you're good to go. So most people simply can't be bothered to spend any time figuring out a game from 1999 and its mods. Content. Counter-Strike was and still is, with its later versions, a whole world of ideas put into a canvas, or better yet, multiple canvases. You want simple shoot to kill gameplay, various crazy mods, communities with thousands of people to interact with, you had it all. As the years passed, however, and people started moving on, those options became less and less. Very few are the people nowadays that are still working on healthy and fun servers, so the options and variety are much shorter. Many newer games offer similar types of modding, or even have these ideas integrated already in them, be it zombie modes, superpowers, and even more, such as roleplay, something very popular nowadays in open world games. Content is simply ridiculously redundant nowadays. I still don't believe the majority of multiplayer games nowadays offer that homely feeling, that connection and depth between players, but the gaming world, for better or worse, is less engaging and more faceless at times. That, however, is not enough to keep the grandfather of FPS games running like a youngster. Content in 2024 is a lot more than a simple FPS shooter with bad graphics being on top. Counter-Strike 1.6 was a ridiculously popular game back in the day, but can you still play it today? Absolutely. There are still hundreds of servers with various mods and people. You can still hop on one of them for a few hours of fun. However, being an old game with its own flaws and loopholes, and possibly in an attempt of the few remaining server owners left in the game to try and keep things moving, it has been infested with fake players, as in bots. There are plenty of boosting services you can pay that often send fake players to your server in order to make it seem active and attractive to players, and even other tactics to keep you returning, like slow hacking, which is basically the server editing your game files to keep you returning to the server, toxicity, and cheaters. Security is obviously low in such a game for obvious reasons, and there aren't as many server admins to keep an eye open as in the good old days. However, truth be told, no game of any age is safe from bad apples, so then don't let these things put you down. The game still has thousands of real and healthy players who still jump in the nostalgia from time to time, and I promise you can still enjoy it. I myself still play it every now and then, and I can safely say it's always fun. The game can easily be found on the Steam store, so if this video made you think about it, I say go give it a try and you won't regret it. If you're an oldie on the other hand, don't hesitate to revisit your childhood and you won't regret it either. How many hours did you spend on the game during your childhood? Which mods were your favorite? And most importantly, what are the best memories you had from the game? Tell us in the comments below. I'm Andrew, and thank you very much for watching. See you in game. Advertisement following. Do you want an easy way to save your tabs for later and avoid overloading your Google Chrome browser and computer? Do you want to be reminded of a website you want to revisit? To tab later is here. Save your tabs, save your resources, and get back to your work later. Get the free or pro version on the Chrome Web Store. Links in the video description. Quickly get difficult password combinations and username suggestions on Credential Generator.online. 100% safe and free.